What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show, powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, I'm always excited to see you. I'm always excited to talk hoops with
you. Good. That makes me feel good, brother. I'm glad to hear that.
But I have been chomping at the bit to talk to you about last night's game because, oh my God, was it a 10 out of 10 game. Really a 10 out of 10 finish to the game because that fourth quarter was as entertaining as any. How are you doing, and are you as excited as I am?
Yeah, I am, man. No doubt. Because, all we ever want is just we want drama. That's all you want, man, as an analyst. Hey, we're watching. We just want drama. You might not, if the Nuggets are playing, you could do without the drama, and I'm sure you'd take 25-point wins every night. But guys like me, give me something meaty. I want something meaty to talk about at the end of this game, and what can get meatier than what we just watched? Because I'm still sitting here the next morning, halfway through the morning, and I'm still a little bit, not shocked, but I'm still kind of like, man, nothing added up to them winning that game. Nothing. Yeah. And yet here they are, man, up 1-0, and another incredible comeback and pressure performance by their team and by Haliburton again late with heroics.
This might be a hard game to break down, to be honest, because most of what you take away from the first three quarters, tells you one thing, but the fourth quarter is what determined the game. So we'll get right into it. They come back, and I'm going to tell you there were a handful of moments because most of this game, I'm watching this one live and I'm looking at my timeline on Twitter and what everybody's saying in real time. And it's all the Thunder dominate, Thunder this, Thunder that. Most of the game I'm looking up and the Pacers are only down 10. They're only down 11. It feels like they should be down 100 because they had 20 plus turnovers. And it felt like they should be down more. And I'm thinking, okay, they're hanging around. But at 9 minutes and 42 seconds, you get Jalen Williams fast break layup to put them up 15, 94-79. That was the first time I thought the game was over. Do you remember that moment? And for you, did you think the game was over at any point? That was the only moment, or one of two moments, where I thought they weren't going to make it.
I also thought, and I'm going to have to go back and look at the exact context because I didn't get a chance to do it. That was definitely the first time.
Yep.
And then I thought it again when they didn't get the reversal on the play when Siakam went out of bounds and fell with the basketball, which I didn't think they were going to. As soon as I saw the replay, I'm like, he wasn't upright at any point. He was already going to the ground. I knew they weren't getting that. I thought that was also going to be a killer. Yep. But yeah, no question. That baseline out of bounds. Yeah, okay.
There was one more you might remember. It was the Lou Dort block. Because that block shot came, I think there was 90 seconds left. They're on a run. And when a team's on a run, sometimes it feels like it only takes one stop to change momentum. Lou Dort goes vertical on a Nesmith drive that should have been a bucket. You felt the Pacers. You felt like it was going to happen. He gets the block. They go the other way, and Shea gets a layup. And I just felt like that one. It was a 3 or a 4-point swing. And at 90 seconds to go, I was like, okay, that did it. Put him up 5. I thought that crushed momentum. So those were the 3 times. You're right. There were 3 times in the fourth where I felt like it was over.
Totally agree. And you're right. That baseline out of bounds play that when TJ McConnell threw that ball away, and it wasn't his fault, by the way, that was all Thomas Bryant because he had his guy sealed and there was nothing left. TJ McConnell threw it exactly where he needed to throw it. And Thomas Bryant never released to go catch it. And actually George Sedano, who was working sideline for radio last night, yeah, he said he was in the huddle, and he was like, TJ McConnell was so mad at Thomas Bryant on that play because you're right. It's one of those plays. Jalen Williams gets the dunk, crowd's going crazy. You're up 15, 9:40 game, right? I agree with you. It looked like, okay, they're not overcoming this. Actually, the whole time, I don't know how many times watching that game, I was either saying out loud or writing down, how is this a 10-point game? How is this a 9-point game right now? Because here's what it comes down to. The headline from the game has to be this. And I've seen this team, as we all have, all year, take turnovers and cash them into the tune of 1 point to 1.5 points per turnover. That's what they do every single night. So normally in a game, if you turn the ball over 15 to 20 times against Oklahoma City, guarantee you they're going to get 20 plus points off of those turnovers. The fact that they got 20 and a half of basketball and only turned that into 9 points was the game.
You're right.
Because if they convert, and look, some of it was them. If you go back and look at them all, some of it was they had numbers. They missed some like attacking shots at the rim with numbers in transition that were contested, but still they usually make them. They missed a couple of trail threes or an early three, didn't make those shots they normally do. They get to the line in those situations off the turnovers. They didn't get to the line. And then the other part, which nobody was really talking about, which I think we have to do, Indiana's commitment to retreat off of turnovers was really impressive. Get ahead of the ball, man. Sprint back and just get back there and muddle it up so that they have to reset. And then on that possession, they didn't score. That was the story of the game because it's the only thing that kept Indiana from being down 25 at halftime. And they're not coming back from that. 12, you're like, man, oh man. That game went to halftime and I'm going, Rick Carlisle is going to get in there and be like, guys, we just had 20 turnovers in the first half, the most in the history of this franchise in a half of basketball in any game. We're only down 12 points.
Yep.
Like that's exactly how they had to feel. Daigneault probably was thinking, all right, yeah, we didn't convert those very much, but still we're kind of dominating them right now defensively. Like they can't run anything. We'll play better in the second half. We'll convert more of those. I think he probably felt pretty good being up 12. Carlisle was thrilled to be down 12 because that could have been so much worse. That was the headline, man. The fact that their head was above water after all of that, and then even, down 15, okay, you're right. It looked over again. And then we'll talk about the last 9:30 and like what transpired there. But for me, Adam, it's really the first half that they were not knocked out completely was the story of the game.
So you think it was the Pacers that were getting back in transition? Not just some of this almost felt like dumb luck, Oklahoma City not converting, but you felt like despite the turnovers, which we'll talk about in a second, Pacers were very committed and effective at just getting back and making things tough in transition.
I know for a fact because I was denoting it when I was writing notes about the game. And look, it's not every one of them, but even if it's okay, turn it over 20 times. Let's say they did what I'm talking about on 6 of those,
right?
Where it was clearly just because of their effort to get back. And what that means is not even like the first 2 guys, because that's obvious. You're the closest guys to half court. You're obviously sprinting. A lot of times you look at even in a playoff game, NBA transition defense, the guys that are down closer to the rim when you turn the ball over, they're kind of like almost conceited. Like, I'm not getting back in this play. And they go into jog mode. I'm talking about those plays, Adam, because I wrote it down. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th guy were in a dead sprint. So if those first 2 guys did enough to deter like an immediate quick strike, that secondary break wasn't there because those other guys came flooding back. And now Oklahoma City, Shea runs out there, gets it, puts it on his hip, goes out toward half court. Shot clock's now at 16, 15, 14, and now they're going to go run a set, and they'd stop them on that set because their defense is actually a much bigger part of this series than anybody ever talked about. I know OKC's defense is one of the best we've ever seen. Indiana's is also very, very good, and it gave them a chance in the game last night. It gave them a chance, and ultimately they make the plays at the end. But yes, so I do think it wasn't all effort. But yes, enough of those plays were disrupted by the commitment to getting back. Maybe it took 6 points off the board, 8 point, whatever number you want to give it. It's a difference between being down 12 and down 18, 20. That's a totally different scenario, I think, coming out of the locker room.
And for a team like the Pacers in particular, 12 points is nothing. And we saw that in the 4th quarter. When they made their run, it was quick. And they actually made a couple runs throughout this game to close it, and the Thunder would kind of respond. But when they closed the gap in the 4th, it didn't take long for that to shrink to where you were like, 6-point game. 4-point game. On the turnovers, though, so we talk about them mitigating those turnovers, but how did they happen? I'll tell you my theory or my perspective on it. which is they clearly wanted to get the ball out of Tyrese Haliburton's hands. He only had 3 turnovers in this game, so it wasn't necessarily him, but they took him off. And I know I'm curious if you felt like he was passive or if you felt like this was a, hey, they're going to overload on me. Let's let other guys go. And then guys like Nesmith had, 5 turnovers. Miles Turner had 6. So I wonder if you saw it that way, where they were just trying to say, hey, let's make somebody else initiate. And those other guys were really struggling to protect the ball.
I think I saw it a little bit differently. I saw it in this way. Some of what you're saying is obviously true about Haliburton. It's a key to the series for Oklahoma City. That's the guy you have to get real handsy with and like make sure he's feeling you and going more sideline to sideline than downhill. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that. I actually thought it was this. They played him twice this year. They've obviously seen him a ton on film. It's still something you've got to adjust to when you play them, that the normal type of passes that you make every night are not available against this team. And I thought there was 2 areas that particularly surfaced in the first half. Number one, by my count, at least 4 pocket passes were stolen. 4. Where you come off a ball screen, the guy slips to the rim, and you throw that little bounce pass. We call it a pocket pass to a guy diving down the middle of the lane, and they're below their waist. Oklahoma City's guards are so good at putting their hands low as they're retreating into the lane off of that action. So even if they're half a step behind, when the ball hits the ground on a pocket pass, it slows the ball down. Most defenses aren't still in the area because they're not that close to get a hand on it. That's not Oklahoma City. Shea, Jalen Williams, Caruso, Wallace, Dort, all of those guys. They're in the area and their hands are quick. And when that ball hits the ground on a pocket pass and it's not thrown up high to the guy, they love that. At least 4 of those. They had 2 or 3 that they threw away where they were fronting Siakam or he was wrestling with a guy trying to get position against a smaller defender and they threw it before he was ready. Part of that maybe just rushing because it's the finals. Part of it because they're adjusting to the speed of the way those guys dance around post players. They bait you into throwing the ball to one side or the other, and then they quickly go around to that side and steal the ball. They did that 3 times. And then the third area they weren't ready for was when you get an offensive rebound against Oklahoma City, if you bring that ball down to your waist, it is going to be raked every time. If you go back and look at the first half, the number of just those, they also had 2 backcourt violations. It's like, come on, man. What are we talking about here?
They did have some really dumb ones.
I mean, they had some horrible turnovers, but I thought some of them were, okay, man, like we can't just throw this pocket pass or this post-entry pass or be weak with the rebound against this team. They only had 6 turnovers in the second half. 6. That led to 2 points in the entire second half. So they did clean it up, and they adjusted to it, and they stopped forcing things against this team that can't be forced against Oklahoma City. So I thought that was a part of this ridiculous lack of ball security in the first half, unlike anything any of us really have ever seen. 20 turnovers in a half? Are you kidding me? I couldn't believe it, man. I just was like, what? They didn't look ready for what they were playing. Yeah. And they got ready as the game went on. They were more prepared.
Haliburton, he was mic'd up, and they cut to him at the end of the first quarter or something. They showed him talking, and he said something to the extent of like, yeah, I'm sped up right now, but I think I got it. Like, I'm settling in. The pace was a little quick. And that's what it looked like. It looked like that game had an energy. The building was obvious. You were there. The building was incredible. I mean, that crowd was ready for it. And as they were getting steals, you could tell the intensity and speed was a little high. But let's get to this comeback because it's so incredible. So I'm going to tell you where it started in earnest. That actually started a little before this, but Miles Turner hit a bank shot with 6.5 minutes to go. They were starting to make some plays and make some shots. When he banked in a 3, it was like, all right, things are going your way. And then Nesmith hit a run to the corner, don't even get your feet set or anything, and just go straight into a shot. And he cashed that one. And that's where it was like, okay, anything is possible. Nembhard had that incredible, 8 dribbles, kind of gets a shake, gets to a spot and hits a 3. Siakam had the offensive rebound that was an air ball, and then, of course, Haliburton's make. All of those plays to me, Legs, are plays that are like 50-50 or below, and they just made all of them. Which one do you want to key in on of that run? Because that sequence to me, all of those shots to me felt like, not luck, but they felt like, wow, things are starting to turn in Indy's favor.
Other than the Haliburton game winner, without a doubt, to me, the biggest shot of that sequence that you're talking about was the Neesmith three in the corner.
Really?
Because yes, that's a 9-point game at 2:30. 9. And that was an incredibly difficult shot. He sprints to the right corner, catches. He basically did what he did to the Knicks in game 1 of that series. Right. When he just went absolutely nuclear, and because it was that tough of a shot. He was running dead sprint to the corner, which is a very difficult place to run full speed and turn your feet without stepping out of bounds. I did it, for a living, and it's a tight spot. Much easier when you're already standing there to get your feet positioned, to run there full speed.
That's
and
tough.
Get those things planted, turn, pivot with a guy in your grill. Yeah. He misses that shot. Okay, it's a 9-point game, 2.5. Oklahoma City goes down and scores. It's 11 or 12 with 2 minutes to go. Man, I think that feels a lot different than 6 with 2.5 minutes to go. Yeah. And that's where we were at. And to me, I thought that was the one I actually said, damn, like this is going to get real interesting here. The Turner bank was obviously, there's a lot of luck involved in that. For that ball to kiss off the glass from that angle.
Kind of perfect, it looked like he meant to bank it.
No, it did, but there's no way in hell he meant that. But it looked like it. Because I can tell you right now, I've never in my life attempted to bank a shot from that angle for the 3-point line, ever. So unless I'm messing around playing horse with somebody.
Right.
But like that, so that was, look, there's some luck involved. The Siakam play, I love you brought that up, because if you look at the play, he was basically in the corner when Nembhard shot the ball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was responsible for blocking him out, and he was actually face guarding him. He was about halfway down the baseline toward the rim, and he was like this, hands up, like a NFL lineman ready to block as Siakam comes running in. If Siakam runs in like 2 or 3 steps and then bails and starts to run back, obviously he doesn't get the ball. The fact that he continued to run through it, he ran through the contact of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He kind of chucked him to the side, like, get off me, little man. The ball has to end up right in his lap. The ball hits the rim and kicks out. Who knows who gets it? So there's some luck involved there for sure. But the effort, when you have that kind of effort on a play, then luck will fall your way. So that goes in his lap. He lays it in. Huge play in the game. Look, how about, you didn't even mention this one. How about Siakam getting the 3rd free throw in the lane violation?
Yeah, you're right. Wow, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yep.
It's another point. Like, they all mattered, man.
Gets it back, gets a chance at it. Yep.
Yeah, and made it. And they all these little moments mattered, man, and it kind of all went their way. But again, they're at the point now, Indiana's at the point now where they are expecting this stuff to happen.
Right.
And Oklahoma City, I did feel like over the last after Neesmith's 3, I thought the last 2.5 minutes, they looked very uncertain. And they looked like they wanted the clock to run out.
Yep.
And Indiana sensed that, smelled that, and strung together the stops and set up Haliburton for the last play.
So you're going to hate this statement, but I do think it's kind of true. It's difficult in today's NBA in particular. I think it's always difficult, but it's difficult to protect a lead in the clutch when the momentum's on the other side, because you don't want to make mistakes. And in today's like pace and space era, you can blitz and all this different stuff. It's hard to get clean looks when you're running the clock out, when you're holding the ball to the end, because teams can overload you. And the opposite is almost true, especially for a fast-paced team like Indiana. If you're down, there's a freeness to just play fast and to do the things you're best at. You're designed to play fast. You're designed to get quick shots up and shoot the first one. It's almost easier when you know there's no time to think. It's like, if I have an open shot, I have to take it. And that's how the Pacers played. I mean, that Neesmith shot falls under this category. The Turner shot falls under that category. Even Nembhard deciding to ISO there, he probably doesn't do that in the second quarter. But when it's the fourth quarter, it's like, we don't have time. Somebody's got to make a play. You just get to play freely and go up into it. And by the way, I would have thought the Nembhard 3 was the one you were going to say was the biggest shot, because that one, to me, all the other ones were like games fast, guys find the open shot, they took it. That one he created, and he created it out of the sauciest ISO move to create enough space to get it off.
He did, but he misses that. They're still down 6 with 2 minutes to go. Like, that's a real workable margin. If Neesmith
More the
misses the
margin.
shot and OKC were to convert that, it's an 11 or 12-point game with 2 minutes to go. So
Right.
so that's why I just think the circumstances of the time and score for Neesmith to hit that, I just felt like it gave them hope. Where if he misses it, OKC scores. I have a feeling, I don't know, Indiana would have nearly as much belief down 11 or 12 with 2 minutes to go. When Nembhard hit that, I'm looking at it right now. He hit that shot. It cut it to 3 with 2 minutes to go. So he misses it. There's still 6. So whatever. It's 6-1, half dozen the other. All these things went their way.
True.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about now? Let's talk about the last play. So
Okay.
Shea gets the shot he wants.
Yep.
Great
It was
shot from
really
him,
good
right?
but it was really good defense too by Nembhard, I thought. You're talking about the one he missed, right?
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you, not just because I actually broke this down, not just Nembhard. Siakam was in the strong side corner on that play guarding Caruso, who is capable of making threes, but not a guy you consider a high threat. Like, you'd live with that shot. He stunted at Shea off the corner just enough, because I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had an angle to beat Nembhard to the rim. And who knows, maybe he gets a whistle. But Siakam stunting stopped Shea dead in his tracks. So he went to the spin, came out of it for that little lean back. Again, it's wheelhouse shot for him, man. A mid-range 18-footer leaning back and with separation. I was like, okay, he missed the shot. Whatever. Guys miss shots. It happened. So now Carlisle's getting all this credit for not taking the timeout. And these are always, to me, situational. I don't think there is any set answer. Anybody that says, oh, just let the guys decide it all the time, I think you're insane. And I already went over this earlier in the postseason with Joe Mazzulla against the Knicks in that game against Boston when he let them play out of a made free throw by Brunson. And Tatum comes up the floor and they don't even get a shot off. I said, man, how do you not take a timeout right there? And the Knicks have a set defense. It's totally different. This is a live ball situation, number one. Number two, Rick Carlisle also, I think, was able to process in the moment. When that ball came off the rim, 4 Oklahoma City defenders were on the opposites. We're all on one side of the floor, and they were on the opposite side of the floor from where Tyrese Haliburton was. So meaning there was a ton of space to just give him the ball. If he was jammed up or it was murky in the backcourt and everybody was sort of entangled, I think Rick Carlisle probably calls timeout.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this doesn't look good. It looked good from the beginning. Like, we've got flow here. Gave him the ball, and then I think it worked out as good as it possibly could for Haliburton. He got to his right hand 3 different times. If you look at it, he stops. He hesitates, waiting. Like, is they going to cut me off? They never cut him off. Oh, okay, keep going. Okay, one more time. Keep going to my right hand, which is exactly where he wants to go. And that's, if he goes left, it's always going to be a step back 3. He never shoots the ball inside the 3-point line going to his left hand. So he wanted to get either to the rim or, in this case, a pull-up 18-footer going to his right hand with no traffic, no double team, no contact against the smallest of the guys that will guard him.
Right.
It worked out perfectly for him. And then, of course, you know how long he held that follow through shows you how good this guy is in those situations, man. He stays with it because that stuff matters. That stuff matters.
He's
Finish
having an
the
all-time
shot.
run. He's having an all-time run in this playoffs of
Adam, how
big-time
about this
shot
number? I don't know
making.
if you saw this number. You might have seen this. I don't know, people may be talking about this because it was given to us on the air last night by the research team. In this postseason alone, in the last 15 seconds of regulation or overtime, with shots to tie or take the lead, last 15 seconds, the entire league, the rest of the league, every player that was in that situation shot 4 for 27 in those situations. Tyrese Haliburton is 5 for 5.
That's insane, man.
5
That's
for 5.
insane. And they're big ones too. Like, if you go back and look at them, it's not like, sometimes those stats, it's a guy got a fast break layup or he got wide open shot. They're tough shots. They're insane shots that he's hitting. What did you make of the shot, by the way? Because you're right that he was getting to a spot and you could tell he was going to get it. But it almost is like he shuffled his feet, not a travel, but usually you step into that one like left, right. You kind of give a guy like you're going to go by him and then you pull a left to right, or maybe you hop into it. He almost shuffle hops into it like it was awkward. and then regathers himself to be able to get the shot off.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, when he went over to the right side of the court, I'm telling you, he was thinking there was enough time. His favorite shot going in that direction is the little running off the glass bank shot. As a floater, a little push shot, sometimes it's a scoop shot, because he doesn't really shoot pull-up mid-range jump shots. He shoots floaters, push shots, stuff at the rim, obviously, and threes. He doesn't shoot the shot he shot to end the game. And I think when he went to the right side of the floor, his first thought was trying to turn the corner on Casey Wallace and shoot the runner off the glass. But Caruso was over there guarding Siakam, and it was a little crowded. So I think the footwork on that was because that was a little bit of an afterthought, plan B here. It's a little bit more crowded than I thought. I'm not going to get to like that 8-foot area to shoot the high shot off the glass, which he loves. And I think that's why you saw him look a little bit disorganized as he went up. It was plan B. But he's still, man, there's something about him that clearly you just got to give the guy credit. He's got incredible amount of nerve.
Yeah.
And that is an intangible quality. Some guys have it, some guys do not. And Tyrese Haliburton has nerve at the end of the day. What he's feeling in the moment is nothing but the good kind of adrenaline. It's not the bad kind. It's the heightened sense kind of adrenaline, which is a good thing. Some guys don't feel that. They feel something totally different. They feel muscle tightness, and they feel their mind speeding up too fast, and adrenaline that overwhelms them. His adrenaline is in a perfect place because it's when you're the best as an athlete. And he finds a way to get there mentally, to let his body just go through the muscle memory when he has to. It's incredible.
Yeah. All right, let's take our first break. On the other side, we're going to keep breaking down this game. Obi Toppin, we have to talk about him. He had a special performance. We're going to talk about the Thunder changing their starting lineup coming into this game. We'll talk about where teams go from here. All of that and more on the other side. First, Vivid Seats. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and there's no better time to experience the intensity in person, whether you're trying to catch your favorite team live or just looking for the best deal on live event tickets like concerts, summer concert time. Let us tell you about our friends at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the best place to get your tickets for any game or show. They have the best selection of seats, 100% buyer guarantee, and they're the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. For a limited time, our listeners can use the promo code ALLNBA30, you see it right there on the screen, to receive $30 off their first Vivid Seats purchase of $300 or more. Just click on the link in the show notes or download the Vivid Seats app and use promo code ALLNBA30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. And that's not all. For the remainder of the NBA playoffs, Vivid Seats is giving away free tickets every week. Check out the exclusive Game Center in the Vivid Seats app and play NBA Playoff Pick for your chance to win. When it comes to playoff hoops, being there is all that matters, so experience it live with Vivid Seats. Also want to tell you guys about Monarch Money. Finances can be messy and confusing. Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. It's more than your average budgeting app, although it is that as well. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, your investments, and your goals. So don't just manage your money. Start building wealth with 50% off your first year exclusively for our listeners. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code ALLNBA, ALLNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code ALLNBA. All right, back here, segment 2. If you're new to the show, make sure you're subscribed. Tim Legler and I doing this 4 times a week. And this series warrants it, man. If we get more games like this, I'm telling you, it's fun to relive a little bit. I want to go to some other things here from this game. The first thing I want to do is just talk about the moment now that Oklahoma City finds them in. This game almost followed the exact script of Nuggets Thunder game 1. If you recall that game, the Thunder dominated. They had a big lead. Denver had a comeback that seemed to happen all at once, and it ended with Aaron Gordon hitting a game winner in Oklahoma City's building, stunned the crowd, exact same thing. And Oklahoma City bounced back from it. And it made me think, this is huge for Indiana. Their odds of winning the series just skyrocket when you steal game 1 on the road. But at the same time, Oklahoma City, the playoffs prepare you for whatever moment you're going to run into. Oklahoma City has experienced this once before, almost this exact thing. Do you think that helps them? knowing that they've survived such a punch before.
Yeah, I do. Look, and I know we're all trying to decipher what we watched last night from Oklahoma City standpoint and just like how this was possible. I don't personally think the stage was too big or it was just too much pressure for them to handle in their young team. I don't buy that. I think they had a very strange first half with their inability to turn all of those extra possessions into points. I don't think that was because of the moment. I just, whatever, man. They had one of those nights. Now, I do think they tightened up late, but a lot of teams are going to tighten up. I don't care who you are. Like you're all of a sudden you let a lead slip away in the fourth quarter at home in a finals game. Like you're going to tighten up. And they didn't have enough guys look normal in that situation. So we're going to find a lot more out first half of game 2. Like what exactly was that we watched? I'm very confident I have a total feel for who Indiana is, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason why everybody thinks Oklahoma City is going to win this series. And I still think Oklahoma City is going to win the series. I do know this. If Indiana didn't get a split in these first 2, this was probably going to be a 5-game series. The fact that they won last night, I think automatically makes this 6 and probably 7. This is probably going to be a 7-game series now because of the belief factor and the fact that, Indiana hasn't even played a home game yet, man. They got this one in their pocket. That's huge psychologically. Let's see what Oklahoma City's response is before we make any sort of definitive, declarations on our understanding of what OKC is experiencing psychologically. Because I don't know what, because I saw that team all year and they were a lot better than the rest of the league. I know that much. And they weren't
one guy we didn't talk about in our preview that we filmed yesterday, Obi Toppin. And we had some people in the comments saying, hey, this guy's going to be an X factor. This will be an X factor. Well, he was last night because he went 5 of 8 from the 3-point line. Legs, he only had 4 games prior to this, all of them in the regular season where he had 5 threes or more. To have one of his best shooting performances of the season in that game was just absolutely huge.
Totally agree with you. It's just such a great point. And the cool thing about the Pacers, so you've got these 2 guys that are clearly your 2 best players, and Haliburton, still like he has halves or nights where you're kind of like, man, like he's just not very aggressive tonight. Like what's going on? So it's not even like he's like, penciled in like you do with Shea, who again got to his number last night, 38, and looks for the most part fairly normal. Siakam, for the most part, is good every night, man. And some nights great. He doesn't really have too many, man, where he doesn't you don't notice him. But beyond those 2 guys, it can be an X factor out of probably 6 or 7 other dudes every night. It could be Toppin. It could be Nembhard.
Yep.
It could be Miles Turner. It could be
McConnell.
Nesmith. It could be. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned him because I want people to understand something. In the big picture of the game, no one's going to really notice this. TJ McConnell was the only player on the Indiana Pacers in the first half of that game last night that did not look like phased. His 9 points that he had in a very short period of time kept that game from being 20 at halftime, despite the fact Oklahoma City wasn't converting turnovers. It would have been 20 anyway if TJ McConnell doesn't come off the bench and just do what he did. Hits a 3, like a little short pull-up, 2 layups in a very short period of time, at a time when we were just going, oh my God, what is wrong with the Pacers? Look at these guys. And then TJ McConnell comes in and goes, guys, it's fine. This is just another game. It's a Wednesday night at Washington in November. No big deal. Let me just go do my thing and do what I do every night, which is just amaze people that I'm this effective. And he had 9 points at him. It totally was a life raft to their team. So even a guy like that, it can be an X factor on any given night. So they have so many of them. That's the beauty of their team, man. Like who's it going to be in a particular spot? And you're right. Obi Toppin was huge for them, particularly the second half.
TJ McConnell, by the way, that shot he has, no shot feels like it's going in less, man. Because teams will sag off him. The 3 you hit, you're right, it was big. But he kind of lines it up, he puts his arms out there and doesn't really jump that high on it. And when it goes in, it's just like it's crushing
It's
because I
just
never think it's going in.
it's incredible. I marvel at the guy, man. I love TJ McConnell, man. I want to have TJ McConnell to my shore house and play some beer pong with him and just see what's what, you know? Because he's such an amazing player to look at like
Yeah.
some of the physical just limitations he would have. Now he is lightning quick, so that's helpful. But this like his size and his shooting mechanics, and you're just like, how? But
Yeah.
he does, man. He does, and he does it every game. It feels like TJ McConnell somehow, man, he has his moments where his fingerprints are all over the thing, and he had that one little mini run in the first half, and that was enough of a contribution for that night to keep that from being a 20-point game at halftime.
Well, the other thing that happened that was interesting in this game is the Thunder, who won 68 games this year and have dominated 2 out of their 3 playoff series so far, changed up their starting lineup going into game 1. Now, I understand why, like you think this Pacers play 5 out, you want to be a little bit more fast. But it also is weird and maybe sends a weird signal to your team when you
Totally
change
agree.
up in this spot. So
Totally,
it sounds like you didn't like this move either.
totally agree. And I'm not going to sit here and overstate the psychological impact. Like, oh my God, throttled us psychologically so much, changing the starting lineup, we couldn't play. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you won 68 games, you are the number one seed. You're the prohibitive favorite. Okay. And you're not even playing the Celtics. Not that it would matter. You're playing Indiana, who's a good team. You didn't expect to see the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. And the message you're sending to your own team is, we have to adjust to these guys. We're worried about something. I just think it should be the opposite. And what differentiated you, and we talked about it last year with OKC when they got eliminated, man, oh man, they're too small. Chet Holmgren, weighs 200 pounds, maybe not even. He's their only big. They get crushed on the glass. They're still good enough defensively and have enough talent that they can still win and overcome that most nights. But this is a problem for them, particularly some of the big guys you got to play in the Western Conference. They addressed it. They differentiated themselves. Like, we have these 2 guys that, and we don't play. I did say to you, if you remember the preview show for the finals, I said they can't play them together as much in this series
Right.
because of how Indiana plays. I said that, but I didn't say I wouldn't even start them. To me, you're already right off the bat. Like, and I'm not saying they were stunned, but when you walk into the shoot around or film room or whenever the hell you told this to your team, it absolutely is kind of like, huh, okay, that's interesting. Like, we're adjusting to them. All
Before
right.
it even starts. Yeah, before it
We
even
played, we
starts.
won 18 more games than them. We won 80 games to this point.
Right.
Why are we doing that? Because they got beat by 17 on the glass. 17. So
Yeah.
and that was supposed to be an advantage potentially in this series. Look, those 2 guys have proven they can play together. They're versatile defensively. They slide their feet well. They're great with interior passing to each other. So that's an area that you can beat them a little bit. Get the ball to the middle to Chet. Here comes Hartenstein along the baseline, lob, dunk. Every game in the playoffs, it felt like they had 2 or 3 of those moments, more against Denver some nights. I felt like some nights against Denver, it felt like they were doing that 5 or 6 times a game, connecting with each other, and it's demoralizing. It makes
Yep.
you look so feeble defensively when one big throws it to another big for a dunk. It just looks like, man. So to start off, the tone you set is, we're going to switch up because we need to match up with this team. I felt that it was a mistake. I love, how much I love Mark Daigneault, and I think he's one of the brightest guys I've met in basketball. I didn't think he had a great night last night, because I just don't think that's the tone you set. Maybe you pull one of them out 5 minutes in, 6 minutes, whatever. But you don't go, man, right off the bat. We can't guard this team effectively unless we switch up who we are at the start of the game. I thought it was a mistake.
And Indiana actually did a good job of getting Siakam the ball early on like pick and roll switches. Kaysen Wallace would be guarding him, Lou Dort would be guarding him, and he did a good job of making himself available. They're tough because they fight around you in the post. They're so quick, right? But Indiana, I thought, did a good job of attacking that and getting something out of it. So to your point, you go small thinking we'll be able to spread. Indiana goes inside and takes advantage of it. But I think that Chet had a pretty rough game. The stats are horrible, 6.6 rebounds in his 24 minutes. But, you make this move to be a little bit more versatile defensively. And I thought even defensively, there were a couple drives, a couple plays where you kind of expect this is why you're out there, keep him in front and contained. And guys were being able to kind of jab at him, get to the foul line and get shots over him. That's the defensive play he has to be able to make, is to not to, he's so long and quick and mobile to close that gap and take those away. And I thought guys got that on him.
All right. You used words like rough night, horrible stats, and I'm still going to give you a pillow right now.
I know. I was going to say.
That's how badly I thought Chet Holmgren played in this game.
All right. He was horrible.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
I thought Chet Holmgren sucked last night, Legs. He was horrible.
Dude, I didn't once in 2.5 hours of watching the game with people preparing for the post-game analysis mention his name.
Yeah.
In 2.5 hours of basketball, he didn't have a single offensive rebound. He was not a presence at all at the rim, except maybe a couple of possessions. Where the hell was he? Like Chet Holmgren, of all the people in this game last night, he's the guy that had the roughest ride home, right? From the arena. That should have been the roughest ride for anybody. And look, I like him a lot, and I think he'll bounce back. I think he'll be much, much better and more aggressive game 2. But you remember early in the year, before he got hurt, what we were talking about with Chet Holmgren? Like, my goodness, what has happened to this guy? He's so much more aggressive. He's taking people off the dribble repeatedly from the three-point line and finishing with force at the rim. He's hunting offense. He's a totally different player than he was the year before. And then he got hurt, came back, and I think it was a little bit of a tough time for him after that, just finding his impact. Had it some nights and certainly got better in the playoffs, I felt like. He was a non-factor. I'll take it a step further. He was a non-participant in the game last night. 24 hollow minutes. Yeah. And he's the guy. Every game's going to have one of these. He's the guy from last night that's going to probably have the roughest night's sleep and like be hardest on himself. And I expect a bounce back from him because I respect the guy a lot. I think he's competitive, and I think he's going to come back with a lot of force and aggressiveness in game 2.
Yeah. I mean, he has to make a bigger imprint. They even just played small in key moments of this game, including the clutch, because they didn't want any big out there. It was like, all right, we're just going to go slow or go really small. So Chet having such a dud, and we've seen this before, by the way, he had a dud. I really do liken this to game 1 against Denver in that second round, because in that game, if you recall, he came up pretty small as well. He's guarding Jokic. Jokic went right through him, and they had to make some adjustments. So I agree. Here's the other thing, though. If we want to break it down like this, the Thunder took 16 more field goals than the Pacers. That's part of their MO, and they did it because the turnovers, namely, but also some of the offensive rebounds and second chance points. Lou Dort made 5 threes. That's more than you expect out of him. Shea had 38 points. That's quite a bit. And then the Pacers had those 24 turnovers. All of those stats, and you still lose. What changes now between the next game? Because
I hear you.
Blueprint.
If you're logically approaching it, the case you just made in a courtroom, you say guilty as charged. They're not winning the series, Oklahoma City, right? Because exactly what you just said. Now here's what will be different in game 2 for them. Because it's such a huge part of their identity, and their offense is triggered from their defense, and they did not generate that stuff into points. That won't happen again. It can't. There's no way. 25 turnovers to 11 points. If you go on their season average, those 25 turnovers would lead to 35 points.
Right.
It led to 11 and 2 in the second half. That is what's going to change, to your point. That is what's going to change more than anything else. I also think they have to look at the film, and they have to understand that they need to make Indiana a little bit more of a finishing team in the paint. Particularly when this game got away from them. They're so conditioned to flood the zone on penetration. I get it. That's who you are, and that's what makes you special. It's all inspiring to watch it. The way that they help and recover defensively, it's incredible. It also makes them susceptible to three-point shooting. And it's one thing if you do that for the first 42 minutes of the game. It's another thing. Time and score dictate up 15, 9 minutes to go. The only way the Pacers are going to pull this off is if they have a number of made threes here the rest of the way. So I think an overreaction a little bit to some of this stuff when the ball got past the outer shell, adjust to that. Stay home a little bit. You don't need three guys to flood to the ball, even though that's what you do most of the time. You can adjust that in the moment and say, okay, we got to stay home here with Nesmith. Stay home with Turner. Okay, we a little bit, maybe stunt and get back. You can't full-fledged turn your back to those guys to run over on penetration because they gave up 3 or 4 threes in the last 9 minutes of the game because of that. So that's the other thing they'll adjust to. Time and situational defensive rotation. You don't do it the same the entire time. That stuff matters. And then again, just cashing in on the turnovers. They did not do that. And it's one of the few games you'll watch them all year where they had those kind of numbers.
So here's another thing I wonder, and this is an open-ended question. I don't want to lead you in any direction. I think it's a good thing there's so many days off between. There's like 3 days off between the first 3 games here because this should be an exhausting series. The Pacers push the pace. They pass the ball in the half court, and the Thunder pressure you. So one of the questions I had in the series was, is OKC going to wear down? Because Pacers move the ball so much and they love to rotate and load up and scramble. But now those rotations are so hard because you have to close out on everybody and you're running. So that wears you out. But on the other end, it's exhausting to have to attack pressure defense for 48 minutes. Do you think that Oklahoma City wore down a little bit late in this game and not Indiana, that Indiana was able to keep moving the ball and keep attacking, and Oklahoma City, trying to rotate for 48 minutes, it just got a little bit worse as it got late?
I don't necessarily think it was a fatigue thing, Adam. I think what happened was, imagine like, I like using other sports analogies. So imagine, you're Mike Tyson and like, you're so used to putting people away when they're staggering. And here's this one occasion where the bell sounds for the 11th round and you look up and the guy's stumbling back to the corner again. He's not asleep. And you're like, man, like you're kind of shocked. And I think Oklahoma City doesn't have done to them typically what happened to them last night. Now, you said it, Denver did it to them. Doesn't happen often. And certainly they didn't see that coming when that Jalen Williams got that dunk to go up 15 and timeout Pacers, the crowd's going crazy. That's one of those games that ends up being an 18, 20-point win from that point. Yeah. And I just think they got a little bit frozen, particularly offensively. Go look at their possessions, and they got some clean looks. They did miss some clean threes in the fourth quarter that, they make 2 of those. It's a different outcome. I get it. But I'm only talking about the last 3 minutes. I just felt like they just looked super tentative and very much wanting the game to end rather than going and basically ending the game yourself. Yeah. They didn't do that. And you leave the door open against this team, particularly as we've seen it time and time again. There's just never out of it. Yeah. And until you slam the door shut, and I guess OKC just left that thing cracked.
You were in the building. Just walk us through the final second, that final play. What was it like? What was it like walking out? You did this, the Sports Center on the court after the game, but just what was that arena like as they walk out of there with a loss?
As about as stunned as a group of people as I've seen in an arena. Yeah. And you felt, it's funny because you could visually see the anxiety on those people as Haliburton was coming up the floor. Because they, first of all, these people, they're watching the Pacers to this point. They know what's been going on with that team. And you just watch this lead disappear. And now this team has their hands on the ball for this last moment. And so coming up the floor, spot. Even, you saw a whole lot of this. Well before he shot the ball. Well before he shot the ball. Like I know what is about to happen, and I can't believe this is happening. And so that's kind of the best way to describe it. And now I will say this: it's a friendly group of people. Like this is about
I've said this. I've been to that arena before.
Yeah. So they weren't walking out, setting fires to trash cans and assaulting people. Like They left in a stunned sort of state.
Yeah.
I think still very confident in their team, but one of those deals where you had a ticket to the game, you paid a lot of money for that ticket to the game, your
Yes, you
team
did.
certainly was in control of the game, and you walk out without a win? What? So I just felt like it was just this shuffling of feet as people made their way out of there, like they couldn't really believe what just happened. I think a lot of people even covering the game, like all of us, were kind of like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. Well, I think Oklahoma City bounces back in game 2, but you know what? You never know. Indiana has won the first 2 games on the road. Have they done it in every series? They've done it a lot in this playoff. So they've been really good. That game now, the stage for game 2 is just
Man,
incredible. We'll of
yeah.
course be recapping it on Monday. Before we get out of here, Legs, though, real quick, I have a quick one for you. And this is that Adam Silver mentioned the other day, yesterday that is, that when he was interviewed, he was asked about the All-Star game and he said, "Yes, next year we are going to make the All-Star game American born players versus non-American born players." There's a lot to unpack here, but what do you just think about trying to give some life to the All-Star game, make it matter? What do you think about that gimmick?
I just don't think ultimately, and I love their efforts here, man. They tried something new this year. They're gonna try something new again.
Right.
It always boils down to the same thing, and you'll never change it. It's the mentality of the players around that particular weekend and that event. They do not want to be taxed at all physically to do
Yeah.
it. They just don't want to compete. And until you get guys wanting to compete, there's nothing you can inject into the equation to appeal to their pride in any way. Hey, how about USA? Can that get us going? Maybe I'll run out with waving the American flag, like when you run out to the layup lines. Like, this isn't the Olympics. That's different. That's a different scenario. And it sounds like that's what they're trying to kind of create,
Yeah,
but it's not.
recapture it a little,
It's
yeah.
an exhibition, and it's like not even the middle of the season. It's like basically 3/4 of the way through the season, practically almost. So until you get somehow like this feeling of it matters to us, because really the ultimate was the East West. Because back in the day when the All-Star game, when they really did compete, there was this feeling of wanting to prove that you're the better conference, and our road is tougher all year because our
Yeah.
conference is better, and we're going to go
Yeah.
prove it. Or that matchup you'd get every now and then, like like a Kobe LeBron moment, like we had that one year where Kobe was up guarding him because he wants to, like, let's go, man. What do you got in front of everybody, right? So that stuff has just kind of gone away, man, and it's not a prideful thing that guys feel. They don't want to compete. They want to rest, and they want to do what they've been doing, which is turn it into a full blown exhibition. So I applaud the league for trying. Try whatever you
Yeah.
can. The mentality of the players is not going to change around that. I think that's pretty obvious.
I think it could change a little. I mean, possibly it could make a little bit more life. You just have a storyline now that maybe people care about. Because I agree with you. Like, guys don't East West. There's player movement nowadays. Nobody has conference pride. These guys have played together. I think back in the day, you could say, "Oh, these guys didn't get to interact that much, so All Star Weekend was a big deal." Now these guys know each other since childhood. But the thing that I think is the flaw in this is, does that mean you're going to select 12 All Stars who are foreign born and 12 who are American? And or you're hoping that there's some kind of even split, because
Oh, you
that
can't
wouldn't
do
be
that.
fair. You
No, you
can't do
can't
it.
do that.
You
No,
can't,
no, no. You're
like,
100%. You're 100% right. You can't do that because clearly, if you're doing that and there's parameters based around where you were born, then,
yeah.
yeah, obviously you're going to have some guys that are going to get screwed. They're not going
Yep.
to make that team that deserve it, right? So you can't do that.
And then what
Yeah,
happens if, like, you're Tyrese Haliburton? It's like, sorry, you're on Team World. That's also weird, right? Like, okay, I'm over here, even though I'm American born.
totally agree. And you know what's interesting about this conversation, and I don't know if you have a list. I mean, I haven't really even put any thought into this at all. But if you are talking about Team World versus Team USA in an actual game 7 for a
Yeah.
title, I think you're going with Team World.
The starting five
But
is ridiculous.
yeah, so who is so again with Giannis, Luca,
Jokic,
Jokic,
Shea.
Shea.
You also get Shea, Canadian. So that's like your 4 best
Oh my
players.
gosh, you
Wait,
got you
take
got
away
Shea. Wait, wait,
Wembanyama?
wait. You got Shea, Giannis. So you got Shea and Luka backcourt.
Yeah.
Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid if you want to.
Yeah, or Wemby. You can put Wembanyama in there
Oh
as
yeah.
your
Oh my
3.
God, you got Wembanyama. I forgot about Wembanyama. Oh my God. So, but here's the thing: if it's an all-star situation,
Yeah.
I don't know, man, because a lot of those dudes you just mentioned don't care at all. Particularly your favorite player
Yeah.
who
Oh, he's
has
not gonna care, man. He's
who
not
has
gonna care.
no interest in being there that weekend. And the
Yeah.
game is just not that event's not tailor made for bigs
Yeah.
anyway. It's like, man, just get me my 8 minutes and get me out of there. Like, I think that's how they all feel. But if it was actually something on the line, a real basketball game, man, Team World would be in good shape.
But then it's after that starting 5 where, like, Porzingis and Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner's just an all-star, but
Yeah,
there's a guy like
yeah.
Porzingis and Nemhard, who I love,
You
like,
gotta, yeah.
it
Bogdanovich is like
oh, yeah,
making
are these
some.
guys getting elevated to all-star status now? So that's a little flaw in the system here,
Wait
but
a
we'll
second. I
see.
didn't even look this far ahead, man. Who is on your Team USA starting five?
I mean, this is what's tough, man. The Ringer just did their top 100 players, and it's all new generation of guys that have moved up. It's your Tatums, who's obviously out, but Donovan Mitchell is up there. Anthony Edwards for sure. The KD, LeBron, even Steph, those guys are moving
Steph?
behind a handful of
Man,
guys
I
now.
know. So if this
So
question came up, 6 years ago, you may have a different answer who wins that game.
no
You
question,
know,
no
right?
question.
But now, man, I think I kind of feels a little bit slanted toward Team World. I mean, and
Anthony Edwards, your team is probably like Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards.
like
Steph Curry's
who's
probably still in there.
who am I missing? Like who's even your bigs? Who are
Yeah,
the
well, that's another
American
part.
bigs
Yeah,
on
the
that team?
American bigs are
Anthony
difficult.
Davis. Anthony Davis.
Yeah, Anthony Davis for sure is in there. Here, I'm going to pull up the Ringer because the Ringer just did a ranking. Not that it's gospel, but at least it gives us a sense here of American-born players. The highest they had Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, Haliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. A lot of little guys. Jason Tatum, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Cade Cunningham. Evan Mobley at number 17 is where you get your first big, American-born big, and then Karl Anthony Towns.
Well, Anthony Davis, you said, right?
Anthony Davis, Evan Mobley, Karl Anthony Towns would be your
Okay.
bigs, basically. Paolo
All right.
Banchero.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's an actual game. Team World's going to be in real good shape. Real good shape. Unless Luka just goes, over usage mode and like nobody else is getting the
Yeah.
ball. But it's a fun concept, man. Again, it's as everything. It always goes back to just what
Do
is
guys
the
care?
what is the ideology and mentality around it?
Yeah.
Do you love competition just for competition's sake? And I don't think that's the case around an event like that anymore. I just don't think guys feel that way about it, and I don't know that they're ever going to again.
Well, one thing I always hear about is that weekend is just packed with parties and events and required, appearances and different things, and that players are exhausted. So by the time the game comes, they've been awake for 3 straight days, and that's part of it. So I don't know. We might have lost the All-Star game legs. It might not be coming back. All right, we got some super chats. What do we have? From the South Side says the problem with this year's All-Star game was 3.5 hours of commercials, 30 minutes of basketball. Also, please no more Kevin Hart. Agree on all accounts. Do you remember how many breaks there were? There was like an hour-long break in between quarters, basically. It was so obnoxious. I agree. That's a bigger problem than anything.
I mean, are you going to make me go full disclosure on whether or not I watched the All-Star game? I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
Next year, we're gonna make you watch the All-Star. We might live stream. We'll do a second stream.
Can you imagine that? You like get zip ties and put me in a chair.
Like Clockwork Orange. His eyes.
Yeah, exactly. You tape my eyes open and just put a giant 85-inch screen in front of me, and I forced to get that. I don't know.
And comment on it too. I'm like, break this down, Legs. What do you see going on in this game? No. All right, what else we got? Jiahua Huang says Indy are now 8-1 in clutch with 141.8 offensive rating. Credit to Carlisle for not calling timeout. You mentioned this when Hallie got the ball going right. Also for calling last timeout before OKC's last play. Shout out to Jenny Busek in the huddle.
Yeah. Kudos to all of it, man. I think that Carlisle is. Listen, I said it before the series. Some people might already have completely elevated him from whatever you thought his historical ranking was for as far as coaches. Just getting here maybe
Yeah.
elevated him to that extent. Um, Certainly, if he wins it, he's gonna leapfrog a bunch of dudes on the all-time list, because if he wins this series, look at the 2 wins he has. An
All-timers.
unbeatable Miami team that most people thought when they first put that together, and then this team, 68 wins and one of the best defenses this league's ever seen. With these kind of betting odds, and you win both of those series to win your 2 rings, he's going to a lot of rungs in the ladder. Rick Carlisle will climb.
There's not that many coaches that have at least 2 titles. Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, John Kundla, Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, Chuck Daly, Alex Hannum, Tom Heinsohn, Red Holzman, Casey Jones, Bill Russell, Rudy T.
And
Eric
of those coaches, how many of those guys with 2 different franchises?
Right. It's a good point. A lot of these are just eras, right?
That knocks at least half of those guys or more off that list. So now you really have a short list of guys that won more than one. I mean, that won at least one with a different franchise.
And half of these, I mean, we're talking about Red Auerbach and some of these are 60s and 70s titles. Not to take anything away from them. I'm saying recent history shows you it's Popovich, it's Spoelstra, it's it's not that many guys. So, all right, last one. What do we have? Aaron says, the Thunder offense plays too heliocentric. If the Pacers limit turnovers, the Thunder will struggle to score, hoping team basketball wins out. I actually think there's some truth to this. It's by design. They don't turn the ball over, so they play heliocentric, and they count on turnovers to create points.
And I also think the other component of this, which was definitely an understated talking point going into the series, even by my own admission, probably didn't get into this enough. We were so overwhelmed with OKC's defense this year and what we watched out of them. We did not talk about Indiana's defense. We only
Pacers
talked about them on the offensive end of the floor. Oh, how good their offense is. This is defense versus offense. Truth of the matter is, look, you have to do both to get to this stage, but we did not talk about Indiana's defense for the last 3 to 4 months to the level that we should have, because they have a really good defense and they're getting better all the time. And so you're right. If OKC doesn't cash in on the turnovers, this series is going to be a lot more interesting and potentially even have Indiana winning it if OKC doesn't look more like themselves in that regard alone. And they're going to have rough shooting nights from the 3. They've kind of done that. They can hit droughts from the 3. Like, that happens. Their defense overall last night was certainly good enough to win the game. The one thing they did not do that they do every night was turn turnovers into points, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. All right. Cue that outro music there, James. What a fun show, Legs. This was a fun one to recap and break down from every angle, and just fun to talk about. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We are back next week with 4 shows as we get into week 2 now of the NBA Finals. Legs, you're out in Oklahoma City. There's got to be like good steakhouses or something out there.
Oh, brother, you know it. We went to one. So we some of these places stay open just for like events like this. Like, it was after hours. We went to a steakhouse last night, like 11:30. Going to another one tonight. That's why I'm going to go hit the treadmill here in a little bit to get ready for tonight.
You got to work hard so you can be able to have this big 20-ounce steak here later on. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. My camera's telling me to get out of here, so I'm going to get out of here. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Game 2. We'll see you on Monday.
Silly like the mayor.